Morning, everyone. It's Bob back on the boat, and this weekend we had a request from the two YouTube followers that actually look at our channel. We had a request from somebody that wanted to know what we thought was good, bad, what we like, what we dislike about our Tiara Sovran. So Heather and I are going to take some time this video to explain to you what we think is good and bad about the Tiara Sovran that we have. It's a 2011. So some of the good things about this boat, and I'll try to show you what I'm talking about when we get through the video. But the fit and finish of the boat overall is just absolutely incredible. So when we talk about fit and finish of the boat, I'm talking about, you know, woodwork throughout the boat, teak and holly floors. The entire boat is wood everywhere you go. The joints in the boat are just tight, and overall the fit and finish of this boat is just absolutely incredible. The next thing that's just very impressive about the Tiara is their seaworthiness. We've had our boat out so far in the one season that we've owned it. There's a rather large part of the Mississippi called Lake Pepin here. It's about it's a widening of the Mississippi River, about 20 to 30 miles long, a few miles wide, and when the winds start blowing from the northeast to the southwest, the lake can get, you know, very large chop and waves and swell on it, so up to 3 to 5 feet. 5 feet is about the highest we've seen, but the Tiara just plows right through that, so seaworthiness is very good. On one of my previous videos I showed you the engine compartment. I've been very impressed with the layout of the engine compartment and the space that it affords me to go down there and work on things, so very happy with the size of the engine compartment. The cockpit layout, we love the cockpit layout. It just really makes it easy for you know, entertaining. It makes it easy to pilot the boat and navigate, and so just the cockpit layout was great. The galley is huge. You've seen that on the interior video. There's plenty of storage. My wife really appreciates all of the storage on the boat. One of the things that is new to us, at least on the Tiara models, from our previous kinds of boats, is the side deck walkways along the gunwale. Those side decks, along with their grab handholds moving to the foredeck, just make it very, very easy to get forward and feel confident in most weather situations that you can do that safely. So one of the things that I'll show you is the access behind the helm. So the access behind the helm is something that's very good. It's also something that is not so good. So I'll show you what the good is, and I'll tell you what the bad is, and we'll move into that. So I was talking about what I liked about the boat, and the helm access is really very, very good. So what I like about this is you can see up on top there are 2 screws that hold this in, and the entire helm moves forward and hinges kind of down here at the bottom. And you can see right there, that's where it'll hinge. The whole helm will push forward, and you can access all of your electronics from behind there. So that's really very, very nice. One of the things that I just can't understand that boat builders do. So you can see down here this little step out where you can put your feet. And the hinges for the helm sit right there. And this little step out right there. So obviously where the helm hinges and pushes forward, there's not much space to get access there. In this step out of solid fiberglass, Tiara has mounted a Seagate computer and another computer module for connecting all of the CTalk and the MIA 2000 networks together, and you can't access those without taking off the entire helm. And so if those ever break, I'm not sure exactly how I would access those. I would either have to cut out a panel on the front of the helm, or I would have to, you can see right down there, I'd have to cut a panel out of the front of the helm to access the two computers that are monitored in there, or take the entire helm off and somehow lift it up. So just a few other things that we really love about our Tiara Sovran. I'm just reading my list here. Love the IPS system. This is our second boat with the IPS system, and it is something that I'm a firm believer in. I love the technology, and we'll have on any future boat that we have. The cockpit curtain, you can see it behind me here briefly. It's kind of what I'm referring to. Tiara put in a curtain here so you can separate off the aft cockpit from the helm area. We really like that as well. The stern trunk off the back, the storage is huge. Love that. The hydraulic swim platform, the all glass enclosed cockpit and helm area is something we also love. The air conditioning in the cockpit, we've got 2 units up here. It keeps it very climate controlled, especially in the heat. It's really very good. My wife really appreciates the convection and microwave oven in the boat, and the washing machine and dryer, the Splendid washer and dryer in ones. 2 or 3 things that we did to the boat that we didn't necessarily dislike but wanted to change. So the first thing was, you saw in one of our previous videos, we added Decadence marine flooring to the boat, and that after 1 season has proven to be very, very good. Gets a little bit warm under the feet if it sits in bright sunlight, but really like the Decadence flooring. So one of the improvements that we've made to the boat, obviously there's a couple. You've seen the vinyl wrapping that we've done on the hull, and you can see that all the way up on this side. So love the vinyl wrapping and what we've done with the boat. That way, I did wash and wax the top yesterday and buffed that out, and it was a ton of work. So having a 46-foot hull wrapped and not having to worry about buffing and waxing that is going to make all the difference in the world. One of the improvements that we just had completed and will be just completely invaluable for our great loop experience is our aft cockpit enclosure with bimini. It's made of Sunbrella and Strataglass, done by a local shop here in Winona, Right Way Canvas, about 30 minutes from here. Greg and his son Mark did a fantastic job with our enclosure, and that will provide essentially 3-season coverage for us while we're on the Great Loop. So now the things that we have not liked on the boat, some of the things that we think don't make a lot of sense, not a whole lot of common sense in the design or how they built the boat there. I'm sure the engineers and the boat designers had a reason, but for the life of me, I can't figure it out. So we talked a little bit about the helm. I love the fact that the helm is hinged and you can get back to the top. Talked to you a little bit about the computers that are stuck at the very bottom of that hinged area that you cannot access. That part I don't like. Another thing that just cannot figure out for the life of me what they were thinking. So I have pulled apart the helm previously, and we had trouble with our transducer and the computer not picking it up, and we're finally able to troubleshoot that, and found the computer located back in the aft stateroom in one of the walls, and was able to reboot that, so that started to work. But while I was doing that, I was trying to figure out, what if I had to access the IPS throttles, the autopilot, or the trim tab controls that are sitting right there, or even the ignition switches that sit all in this area right here. The only way to access that part of the mechanical system underneath there is you have to take and unscrew the AC/DC electrical panels downstairs and essentially climb through those to see the wires. And even with that, my arms, I could not reach it. Why not put an access, just a cutout, and hinge it or whatever, so that you could pull this off, and so you'd be able to access it in case something went wrong. It's an example of, just cannot figure it out. Just a couple of other of those nonsense, just no common sense kind of things. So underneath the helm seat, there are two air conditioning units, that cool down this system. You would think that these two grates here, you might be able to access them, and through this door here, you'd be able to access them. You can access one of the air conditioning units that sits right there, but there is another air conditioning unit that sits back in here. You take these grates off, and it's a fiberglass ductwork that you can't access it. You can't access it from the top underneath. You can take the whole seat off, but you still can't access it very well. The only way to access that is to take the entire cockpit fridge out of the system and then pull that all the way out, and then you might be able to get back to the back of that. So if that air conditioner ever goes out, that's the only way to access it. So one of the other things that I personally dislike about the Tiara Sovran is this helm seat. Now, the helm seat is electrically actuated, and you can move it forward and back. That part is nice. We've had the seat put new foam in it to try to keep it a little bit more stiff so that it supports people on and off. But there are no armrests. The seat is just, for a boat that is this quality, the seat just is not very good for long trips. It's fine for short periods of time, but I'm disappointed with the type of seat that they've put in this. So a couple other things that are kind of on our, not like or bad list is this boat didn't come with an inverter. And so the only way to run electricity is through the genset. That's probably something we'll add before we go on the Great Loop, is some sort of inverter to, minimize the amount we have to run the generator set. There is a huge battery bank on this boat. There are at least 7 house batteries with 2 starting batteries for each engine and 1 for the generator. So, we are talking about a 12 battery bank, and those 7 house batteries would be able to power an inverter for at least the electrical outlets, for days. So, interestingly enough, this weekend, one of the things that I did not like about this boat is there's a air compressor and a small air compressor and holding tank, pressure tank on the boat that power the air horn and our sunroof. The sunroof is pneumatically actuated, and up until this weekend, I really like that. The air horn is just absolutely blares and super loud. The sunroof is nice, although it just gets too hot with it wide open, so we don't use it all that much. But one of the things I noticed was the air compressor felt like it ran all the time. Even when we weren't on the boat, I knew it was running to maintain a compressed system. And I had gone through all of the manuals. I have flipped every switch. I could never get it to turn off, and I just figured, well, that's how it was designed to work. Came down to the boat this weekend, and lo and behold, the air compressor no longer works. There's no air pressure in the system. I can't figure out if the compressor's bad. I don't have an ohm meter down here or a voltage meter to be able to determine if there's electricity getting to it. But I'm thinking that the constant running 24/7 of that air compressor has, it's died at this point, and I never was able to figure out how to turn it off. And so I couldn't figure out why Tiara would install something that when you left the boat you couldn't turn that mechanical system off so that it wouldn't be running while you weren't on the boat. So we're going to take that out and figure out how to isolate it so I can turn it on and off, and only have it running while we're on the boat. So air compressor, love the horn. Sunroof on the actuation of the pneumatic actuation is good. The compressor running all the time obviously did not work well because now it's broken. One of the things that's new to me on this boat is the Kohler generator, or the Onan generator that's on the boat has a dry exhaust. The 3 previous boats that I've had gen sets on them have had wet exhausts where the exhaust and the cooling water from the impeller and the cooler system all came out together, and you could look over the side of the boat and you could determine that, hey, the impeller's pushing an appropriate amount of water through, and you could very quickly gauge the health of your cooling system. This boat has a dry exhaust with its Onan generator. Now, it's much quieter. I certainly acknowledge that, but I became used to being able to look at the gen set and determine that it was being cooled effectively, and the impeller was in good health very quickly. And I'm not able to do that on this boat. The wet exhaust, or the cooling effluent that gets pushed out from the back of the boat, is right at the water line underneath the swim platform, so it's difficult to even take a look at. So not a big fan of that as well. So up front, one of the other things is there's an anchor locker up front, and this boat came equipped with a raw water and freshwater washdown system. So I've got a freshwater hose connect up in the anchor locker, and then on the back, on the transom of the boat, by the 50 amp shore power cord, there's also a raw water and freshwater washdown hose connections there. I love that. I've got the hoses for it. What's interesting to me is up in the anchor locker, there's nowhere to store the hose, and so either you have to walk forward and back with the hose all the time, or I'm pretty soon I'm gonna fabricate something to be able to put up in that anchor locker to, store a hose. Just a couple of other things. Actually, one other thing that I like, but more don't like as much, is the Helm. The Helm is made out of a very dark blue fiberglass, and although it looks very sharp with the steering wheel and everything else that's there, in the sunlight that Helm becomes so hot, and the electronics behind it become equally as hot. And so I'm very conscious of trying to keep as much sunlight off the Helm and of the dark blue fiberglass that's on there. So I know that's a long video, but this is really the good and bad so far that we've had on the Tiara. And so I've saved the best for last here. This is going to be probably the thing that I like the least. So what I'm showing you right now is the port windshield wiper. And you can see down there where the windshield wiper connects into the fiberglass, and the motor sits directly behind that. You can also see the port light that's right there, and you can see this large area of translucent plexiglass, and I'll show you that from down below. Why I'm showing you that is our port wiper no longer works. I can hear the motor run, but there's some sort of mechanical thing that broke inside of it, and I have spent the better part of a day trying to figure out how to access that. So you've seen it up top. There is no access to the motor. It sits underneath solid fiberglass, and I have tried to take off that arm, can't find it. So when you come downstairs in the boat, there is, here is that translucent area up here. You can see it up there. And there is, so you know that the wiper motor is right in front of that. There is also a small little access hatch right there. I've taken that off and tried to find the wiper motor. Have not been able to find it there. I've also taken off this old speaker cover and tried to reach the motor from behind there and have not had any luck. And the last place where you could potentially get the wiper motor would be in the shower, looking at the port light. You can see that there's about 4 or 5 inches of space between the shower headliner and the top of the boat, and maybe taking out that port light and accessing the space between the liner and the top of the fiberglass top might be able to get access to the windshield wiper. But why not? Why would Tiara not, something that would be as easily replaceable and would probably break, provide access? I called Tiara and they said, well, you'll have to take apart your galley cabinets. And I really do not want to tear apart these galley cabinets. So, not sure how that's going to be fixed yet, but that's an example of there is no common sense. Why not create some sort of access, maybe in the shower? Just create an access hatch that allow you to access that motor when you need to fix it. An example of the bad. So that is kind of a walkthrough of the Sovran this weekend, of the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's my wife.
Hi, how are you?
And there's my daughter. So anyway, I hope you guys all have a good week, and we'll see you. If you have any suggestions for other topics that you're interested in, let us know, and we'll see you on the water. Take care. Bye.